So actually, I think this is a good area to finish up on. What happens if you do need to do this? Because there will be from time to time a moment where you finished off and you're like, oh no, I need to do that one extra area. Well, we can do that. At the moment, this individual face here is mapped to an infinitesimally small area on our model, just here. That's not great. We can't control that. That's going to be whatever the color of the pixel is at that particular point, and that's it. We won't be able to have any additional color information or anything along those lines. But these ones themselves, because we've got space on our UV map, there's no reason why we can't come along. We could do them individually. I would not recommend that, but we could select them all, and I am going to mark a seam here. Or no, I'm going to unwrap them all individually. So I'm going to press U to unwrap and just click unwrap at this point. So we're now manually unwrapping. If we were to do a smart UV project, it would destroy everything. It would do a new unwrap and wreck. In fact, let's just do what happens if we do that. Well, we've smart UV unwrapped these areas here, and you can see that it's, well, interesting, but it's not desired at this point. But it has actually unwrapped them as 4 individual areas for me. So that's fine. But if we had everything selected, that could potentially cause us an issue. But because we're not putting detail on any of those areas, we can put this on any part of the image that we're not currently using. And then if we go to our tool set at the top here, under paint mode, to be in the right area, and have a look at the color texture, base color, here we go. We can see that this is black. We don't want it black. We probably want it the same color as this top area. So in texture paint mode, we can actually paint that on. And they're probably easiest to just dump the color straight onto our image over here. So let's go to texture paint, make sure that we're on the right image. And then we can select the right color because we actually put it into our palette earlier. Let's open it up. There's our palette. And then we could come in. Oh, and we've not got the right brush type. So let's come in here. Where is it? That's down at 10%, and then we should be able to color it in. I'm going to make it the whole width and just go down like so a couple of times. And there we go. We've got the right color. And we've got a potential issue, you could call it that, around the edge here. See that we've got this fading. Now, this is a great example. If that was a highlight, we could actually highlight these edges and start adding extra detail along those lines. We're not going to do that at the moment, or darkening in the corners just here. So that's something else we could do. Or we could paint directly onto this, or we could add it to another layer. That's entirely up to you. But this rough edge around the outside here, if we go into edit mode, we can select a face and then see in the UV image editor which one we are looking at here. And it's, if you notice here, there's overlapping UVs. This face at the top here, if we move it around. Oh, thank you. Well, excuse Alexa for coming in and disrupting the stream, but there we go. So yes, we can come in here and maybe manipulate our UVs rather than trying to paint over the top of it. So we've manipulated that. We've moved it out of the way of that darker area, and we could potentially do the same with any of these other things. Or we can move it into a darker area. We can move around our UVs as much as we like, but remember that this will destroy things in other instances, and that can be horrible. So just bear in mind that you generally do UV unwrapping after the fact. If you have to come back and start doing this type of work, then it's usually more hassle than it's worth doing. It can be very much easier to just start again with that particular instance. But I think that is actually a good time to wrap up. We've covered layers, we've
Feels like
covered
a measure
painting.
point. Yep.
Yep.
That's some pretty cool stuff there.
Yeah, I really like how these rivets turned out. I don't like their positioning or anything, but as an example,
Oh, the positioning's the best bit.
oh, look at that! Look at that! You can actually see the pixels. So I believe this is because I've got shade smooth turned on. Sorry, turned off. I think if I go shade smooth, it's will break. It's broken everything. That's fine. In this particular instance, under your mesh data properties, we can come to our normals and turn on auto smooth, and it sorts that out. But we can't do anything about the actual pixelation of this normal map because those are the individual pixels, and we painted a pixel image. So if we
Yep.
go to our it's on the bump map, isn't it? That's causing it. If we have a look at this, that's exactly what's being interpolated, changed into a normal map, and therefore you've got these steps. And this
On
is
the other hand, if your style of game has a sort of retro feel, that's exactly the image you want.
100%. If you didn't want this stepped graduation, this is an example of where having your image as a 32-bit float and having that much smoother would help. The other thing that would help here is actually more pixel data. I've deliberately made things very, very low, a low pixel count, so we can see the artifacting much more prominent than it might be otherwise. If this was a main crate that you might have in your game, you may go up to like 512, and this is a quarter of that resolution, and obviously a lot smaller. From this distance, it's absolutely fine. It's catching the light, no problem. If you're able to walk up to it and get this close to it, then that might not be fine. These may be visual artifacts that you don't want in your model. Nice. Oh, right. Are there any questions?
Or comments.
I've been rattling away for.
You did good. You did an hour and a half there.
I want to continue, but I'm going to hold myself back.
You
and
should
not.
continue, but I'm going to go make dinner. So it's all you, mate.
Let's switch to both of us. There we go. And Jan's still dressed, which is good.
Yeah. I managed to throw on clothes just in time.
Whoa. I like that. Right? I'm sure.
So,
Right. Yes. Are there any
So, yeah,
any questions, whether it's to do with this or just general questions as well?
how do
Fire
they
away.
get the chocolate chips to bake into cookies without melting?
They put them in later on, don't they? Or they use tempered chocolate, which I learned
Surely
about the other day.
would
Is the
melt and
thing.
go squidgy.
Yeah, but tempered chocolate doesn't melt properly. I know, right? I learned about this the other day. So who'd have thought I'd
Okay.
have got to use that?
Ceramic chocolate.
What's
I
the
like it.
meaning of life? 42. Next question, please.
Life has no meaning, for it is a process, not a question.
I'll drink to that.
Yep.
Man, I should have probably had more of this as we went through.
You should have done. I got a question. At what stage would you say it's better to consider a third-party tool like Substance Paint or ZBrush?
It's a very good question.
Roderick asks Fortitude. I'm going to say yes, please.
It's a very good question because obviously those tools are paid for tools, so there's a barrier to
Right.
entry, either a monthly cost. Do they still do the perpetual license?
Well, you've also got things like Materials Painter, which isn't quite as powerful, but
There's Armory, I think, which is actually
Yeah.
based upon. There's
Or Mixer,
Mixer, yeah. So that there are lots of different options. In fact, Mixer is a completely different workflow. It's very easy to get your knickers in a twist with Mixer because you basically have to separate out your individual areas. So if you wanted an area that was metallic and an area that was not metallic, dielectric, you would use not vertex colors, but you'd use a color ID map in order to control that, which is a topic for another day, I think. Yeah, lots of things you can do with this type of technique. I think to begin with, I don't know, because
I mean, I like the fact that layers are very powerful in Substance Painter and that it comes with so many very interesting brushes that when you know
Yes.
how to use them, you can get great effects out
I
of.
need to get I need to try Armory again. I believe that is the one that's based upon Blender, and I'm not sure if it has layers built in. There are add-ons and tools that can help with this process massively, as there are with most facets of Blender. And I would say if this was something you were doing lots of, and you were
Yeah.
working on a commercial project, definitely, I would start to think about purchasing tools that help you out. Like for just using tools outside the rudimentary brushes and everything else that we've got in Blender. Even though you can buy brushes for Blender or you can import your own brushes into Blender, there are certain license things about that because there's no fundamental reason why you couldn't get the brushes from any other program because they are just black and white images. They're high bit images, but they are black and white images, and just use it in Blender. There's no reason why you can't do that, especially if it's an open source program that you've taken them from. But if you've taken them from a closed source program, something like Substance Painter or Adobe Photoshop, then there might actually be licensing issues with using their assets outside.
They could well be, yeah.
So that's just something to bear in mind there. But when it comes to this sort of work, I would certainly say doing it manually gives you an appreciation as to what the tool is doing for you. It gives you a justification. I've seen this lots with like hard surface modeling, where someone will say, "Oh, you need hard ops." It's like, well, do you let explore the process, see if it's something that tool will speed things up. I've got hard ops. I don't use it quite as much as I thought I would have used it.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But one thing hard ops taught me is, hey, Boolean operations are fun. I should play with these more.
Oh, Boolean operations completely destroy my geometry. UV unwrapping is now a pain in the butt. No.
I mean, there's that, yeah.
One of the things that I would also consider doing when it comes to this type of modeling is to model smaller parts of an object, UV unwrap those smaller parts. Uninvited daughters interrupt Mike. That can happen. Fortunately, I've got all the lights turned on in the house. I should mention I've got some hue lights and I turn several of them red when I'm recording. It's like, don't make either recording or definitely live streaming. But yeah, I would certainly chunk whatever model I'm working on. So I could have made, when we were making the slats for the crate, I could have made a plank of wood, and that plank of wood could be used in multiple places, whether it was on a building, on a crate, on a wheelbarrow, and then suddenly you're reusing those assets again. And if they're in different places and at slightly different scales, you can reuse assets quite a bit without worrying about it looking like they've been reused. And of course, thank you for that.
You are so welcome, mate.
Yeah, I shall remember this for next time. Yeah, when you're reusing your assets like that in different places is really, really useful because it's a huge time saver for creating stuff. And whether that's models or textures. And whereas at the moment we have been creating the texture after doing the UV map, what you can also do is already have perhaps a hand drawn wood texture and then do. I was saying at the beginning, you could unwrap individual faces, but you could unwrap the individual face, place it on the texture, and then go on to the next one and unwrap your entire model manually like that. There are so many different ways of doing something. There is no right or wrong. We've just approached it in one way today. And perhaps looking at different textures in the future, perhaps I'll do another one of these where we do the inverse. We actually map to a texture rather than the other way around.
Sounds good. In the meantime, I need to cook dinner.
What are you having tonight?
I am having chicken Kievs.
That sounds really nice.
Baked beans and fries. Oh, no, wait. I had that last night. I'm having chicken burgers with salad and something else.
I had my first salad of the season today. It was very, very nice. Chicken salad. I ate far too much chicken. So I cooked myself. I'm lazy, okay? So no, I'm efficient. Let's call it that. I cooked a load of chicken, just opened the packet, dumped it on a cooking tray, and shoved it in the oven. And then I chopped it all up so I could eat it, obviously, and scatter it amongst the salad. And I found myself having a little bit more salad, a little bit more chicken, a little bit more salad, a little bit more chicken.
Yep.
Where's all the chicken gone? Ugly dinosaurs. I don't think they're ugly. They're beautiful inside.
Okay.
I think that's
you're not helping. My cat's helping me type.
Excellent.
I was going to put ululating. That's quite hard to say. Ululating dinosaurs invited monthly.
That's a big.
But my
word.
cat's by the keyboard going blap 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 blap.
They're hungry too. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. I hope you found it useful. I always
Thank you, Mike.
I always love doing these live streams, so I look forward
I know they're a
to
lot
the
of fun,
next
aren't
one as well. Yes. So thank you everybody for joining us this evening. Next week we're going to be taking apart a game and analysing it, and we'll tell you more about that as the week progresses. But that's
Sure.
it for this week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
I can't
Press
press
it.
Yeah. Okay.
Press it.
It's a new
Press
setup.
it.
Wait.
Press it.